Hi friend, welcome back to my channel. Today it is time for us to talk about my two palettes that I have been working and trying to pan. I'm officially coming out of summer makeup retirement, so to speak, and I'm getting more into the routine of wearing makeup all the time. So before we talk about where the palettes currently are, let me take you back in time and show you my palettes at the last update. Now that you have that refresher, let's go ahead and look at my ColourPop That's Taupe palette currently. And now let's look at my Shadow Kiss palette. So I'm pleasantly surprised to have new bands showing in both of my palettes since the last update, but let's go ahead and talk about the That's Taupe palette because that one will go a little bit faster. Basically, this is working out as I anticipated once I finished off my go-to lids from here, in that I really am coming to this palette for any crease. So anytime you see any kind of gold on my lids, I'm coming into Pebble Beach. I'm actually surprised I have pan showing in the center because I've just been sort of swirling my brush around. And if you look, I feel like you can kind of see it's thinner down here than it is up here. So I won't be surprised if I start to expand pan down here first. But really, I really have been liking this for go-to crease. It's better with some of the golden shades in the Shadow Kiss palette than others, but by and large, it's doing the job. It's what I have on my crease right now. And then from time to time, I am using Boa. This does not work as a sort of like flesh color, bone color for me like I tend to use. My go-to one right now for a while has been the Maybelline, like more of a cream. This is a little bit darker than my actual skin tone. So I occasionally am using this as a crease shade. It's not as universal as Pebble Beach, but it can do the job. There are certain lid looks from Shadow Kiss that I think will pair well with it, but it's not the priority. The priority is first using up Pebble Beach, and then I'll probably come a bit more between these two, but really and truly the biggest use for this, which was why I'm showing pan here, is in Pebble Beach. So when it comes down to it, this palette has become more of a utility palette. Like I'm just using it to be able to complete looks. It's not really helping me like creatively or things like that. It's more just like I'm using it, I'm gonna get it done. And it's less of a joyful palette, so to speak. Like it's not sparking creative joy, but I'm not disliking it. I'm glad that I'm able to still use it despite not having the pretty sparkly lid looks when the palette challenge first started. All right, let's talk Shadow Kiss. So essentially, just because I love to see pan, I decided to use Zeal until I got some pan showing. It's probably the least of my favorite lid gold looks to do because it has the most brass, like copper penny tone in it compared to some of the other ones that you can see. And then once I did that, I started essentially coming up to really these two. I've widened the pan here, and then honestly, Dare. Anytime, I always tell myself, anytime I don't want a gold look, I put Dare on my lid, and then I'll bring in my one matte, which is Shade, and I'll use these two together. But then like it still has a goldeny like essence of gold in it. So I'm always kind of like, not gold as I was going for, but it's fine. Really, I need to be careful about using it too much because I know if I gave myself probably like 5 to 6 weeks at the most, if I just use this as like a go-to lid look for me, it would be gone. And then I'd only really have gold on gold on gold. So I am trying to not do that so much. I am just sort of each day, I tell myself like, okay, like try to find something golden that you can wear. It is hard because I really do like to wear green or like tan. those types of colors that I think are complementary with gold. And I would tell you that my wardrobe, despite like maybe when I hop on camera, my wardrobe isn't a ton of those types of like greens or tans. I wear a lot of blue. I wear a lot of like purple, pink, gray colors that I think air more on like the cooler side. So I tend to either want like a bronze or just like a cooler kind of shade, but it's fine. It'll be fine. No big deal. Just something I'm kind of letting go of fashion-wise where I don't always have to. Like there's not a hard and fast rule. It's just how I've naturally gone. I just need to sort of let that go a little bit and I'm doing okay with it. I'm just barely in the first like weeks of my return to the school year. So plenty of runway left. Overall, I'm just really happy to see that really here, every one of my lid shades that I really like, I have pan in. And I'm sure that I'm not far away from getting some kind of pan showing in shade. I have like a pretty significant favorite spot there that is getting deeper and deeper. So I'm sure I might have a little bit of pan showing. So in regards to plans for the next like projection, what I want to accomplish in the next month or so, I would really love pan and shade, which I think is like kind of a layup, but I would also truthfully love it if I could get one of these two gold shades finished. I don't know how realistic that is, but I feel like that would really help me feel as though I'm on track with the challenge. And honestly, these two are pretty similar to each other. So it would just be nice to have a little less redundancy looking at me as things needing to be finished off. But if I can just widen, if I can't use up one of these, if I could just continuously widen, I'm pretty even in a lot of these shades, which is nice to see because it gives me the thought that if I keep going down that way, I'll sort of just have all of a sudden a ton of the palette used up, which isn't normally how I operate. I feel like if you look at my history, the trajectory of how I typically pan a palette, I'll do a little bit of playing and exploration to sort of understand what I'm working with, and then I'll just like narrow down into one or two shades until they're gone, and then kind of get myself to go another path and get another go-to look that I just narrowed down. I'm a big creature of habit in that way, especially when it's 5 a.m. and you're putting makeup on. You don't always want to do a lot of thinking at that particular hour. So again, still liking the palette. I still feel optimistic that I will be able to get all of these shades that you see pan on right now used up completely by the end of the year. I mean, I'm now in a mindset or a mode where I'm wearing makeup 5 or 6 days a week. And this is really the two palettes that I'm coming to for those types of looks. So I feel like mathematically, there's a lot of runway left for me to get them done. So not the most intense, chatty conversation to have with you today. I think by the next month, we're going to see a lot more change, but I'm still really happy to have chosen these two palettes. I'm still really pleased with how the progress is coming. And now that I'm out of my sort of makeup retirement from the summer, I'm sure we'll have even more swift usage showing in the palette. As always, thank you so much for spending some of your day with me. A rainy day here, as you can see for me, but thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you in my next video real soon. Bye.